For this week's feature discussion, we thought we would talk about Coronation Street from 1960 because it is the 60th anniversary this year, is it not? Diamond anniversary of Corrie.
Some rumours.
As some may say. And so we thought it would be funny to, over the course of the year...
We didn't think it would be funny.
I'm sure that we will find some humour in it. But it'd be interesting over the course of the year to do a variety of things about Corrie's past and... this is why we bought the DVDs recently with our Patreon money. So we mentioned it a while back on the podcast that we bought a box set of 1960s classic episodes of Coronation Street. It's got 80 episodes in the box, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll be ploughing through that as the year goes on. And I don't really know what we're going to do with the rest of it, but I thought it might make a good middle bit for the podcast just to talk about Corrie in 1960 because there were only... 7 episodes, was it, I think? And we've watched them all, and it fits nicely, so it'd be... That's
because it started in the middle of December.
Yeah, 9th of December it started, I think, and it was on Wednesdays and Fridays, and it was quite funny because at the end of the episode it tells you, doesn't it? It's like, next episode, Friday, 7:30.
It was cool, yeah.
Yeah, we've read about the introduction lots. We've obviously... say from watching documentaries or watching that Road to Coronation Street thing that they did for the 50th, we know of the beginning of Coronation Street, but have never actually seen more than the first episode. And we've seen the first episode once or twice. I don't know how much you remembered of it.
I didn't remember even watching it.
Yeah, I think you may have seen it once before because they showed it at the 50th anniversary, but I've seen it 2-3 times. So I know. No, I've still seen it more than you. You need to catch up.
I know.
So we went through them all over the course of a little period of time.
It didn't take us very long, so we were quite good.
yeah, and you know what? We did really enjoy them. I thought I probably would, but I was expecting you to not enjoy it at all.
I thought you would. Slow.
Yeah, I thought you thought it would be slow, and I thought you would be like, oh, this is something else to watch for the podcast and more work. But it didn't feel like work at all, did it? It was like we watched it, pretty over a course of like 3 sittings.
Yeah. So obviously it was in black and white. At the time, it was filmed live. So it was broadcast live every other episode, but it was recorded live. I don't know when they stopped doing that.
Yeah.
But there were bits where you could hear people coughing on the set.
Yeah.
Which is quite
on the
funny.
whole, I thought it didn't look live.
No, they did. Some bits were like, a couple of times the boom was like...
There was. I only noticed the boom twice in one scene. There was a snug scene, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Lena, Minnie and Martha, and it started off with the boom in the shot, and then it was like, whoop, out the way. And then later on in the scene, it's like, there it is again, no, back again.
It's funny how there are things that are like just the same, and there are things that are very different. So the layout of the actual street was a lot more limited when it first started because
it was all within a studio, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they also don't think they knew how long they were going to be running it for. I thot it was not supposed to be.
Oh, it wasn't supposed to be any longer than like 13 episodes or so to begin with. And I can't remember now what point they decided. You know what?
Just
I think we've got something
forever.
here. But they wanted to find out what the reaction for the audience would be. So it was originally planned to end mid-January.
But I don't think it was
61.
planned to end per se, so much as they would just stop making it. Right? So it wasn't
I can't remember.
No, but it wasn't like written as a mini drama series in which, because it certainly doesn't feel like I'm watching a show with a beginning and an end.
Yeah, because we're like
exactly like Coronation
halfway
Street.
Through it now, aren't we? Sadly, on the DVD box set, they although they're sequential for the first 8 episodes, maybe, then it gets very spotty, and there's like 8 episodes per year.
Yeah. But what I was saying was it feels exactly like Coronation Street now in that there are some plots that sort of go across 2 episodes, some that, disappear for a bit and then come back. So you're following lots of different characters. It's not like, it doesn't feel like a TV show would be now. If you commissioned a 13-episode TV show, there would be an overall plot.
Yeah, no, not at all like that.
There's either an overall plot or each episode is individual. Like, say, for example, like I'm watching Modern Family at the moment. Each episode's standalone, basically.
Yeah.
It's neither of those things. It is literally, you can tell he invented an entire new genre of
Did it feel...
Well, he didn't really because of the Archers, but...
Yeah, the Archers, and then there had been American soaps as well beforehand, although they're a different breed entirely, aren't they? But did it feel to you like it was slow-paced or fast-paced or just right?
It just felt like Coronation Street. It's really funny. And I guess one of the reasons I was sort of hesitant as to how much I'd like it was because I was thinking, I'm not going to know what's going on or anything, but obviously I forgot that it's the first episode, so nobody knew what was going on, and they kind of eased you in pretty well. The first few scenes are about Florrie Lindley getting
the shop.
Like, she starts work. Yeah, she buys the shop from someone. I can't remember her name.
Yeah. And there's lots, you can tell in the first episode there are bits that are put into the script to try and inform the viewers.
Yeah.
For example, they refer to the Barlows at number 3.
Yeah.
For example.
But it wasn't clumsy or anything. It was
it felt natural.
So they had one of the first times the first time we see Ina Sharples, I think, she comes into the shop and starts gossiping to Florrie about everything that's going on, and then,
and watch
so
out for those tanners at number 11.
Immediately, this woman is a handful. And everyone else who lives here probably finds it very irritating.
Yeah.
The shop was funny as well because it was an old-fashioned English shop in which the person stands behind the counter and you come up and you say, I would like to buy some matches and some eggs, please. And then they hand them to you one by one. The other thing was you just have the main part of the street, so the opposite side is never seen. Well,
they didn't show any proper outside shots at all, really, because in the opening and closing credits, any time they need to show this is what the street looks like, pretty much they showed Archie Street, which is a place in Manchester which has now been bulldozed, I think. So any time we saw the front of the houses, within an episode, it was the frontage that was put up in the studio there, and it was very tight shots because it didn't look great, and those were the days when the cobbles were painted at the same height as the pavements, but I don't think we saw any of that.
Didn't see the pavement or the cobbles. Starts off with the corner shop, then we go through all the houses, then we get to the Rovers, and then we have Mission.
Well, yes, which was a bit of an anomaly, really, isn't it? Because that's how it was in Archie Street, and one of the things that we didn't mention before about introducing a whole bunch of new characters to an audience is that at the end of quite a few of the episodes, rather than the credits kind of scrolling upwards
or just being alphabetical,
they had a panning shot of Archie Street, and the names of the characters and the actors who lived at each house would appear on screen at that time, and that was a really good move. I think it was maybe episode 2 or 3 that did that first. So it would show the shop, and then they'd say who it is that plays Florrie Lindley, and then I think it's somebody Lappin, the person that she bought it off, I can't remember. And then they go to number 13 and they talk, who lives at 13? That was the Hardmans. And then they go to 11, the Tanners, and so on. And they'd kind of skip over some houses if those characters. No, I think I thought that at first, but I think they did have a plan at who was going to live everywhere, but they didn't always feature in every episode. So if those characters didn't feature in the episode, they'd quickly pan past it and hope we wouldn't notice. And then they go to the Rovers, where they'd mention Annie Walker and Jack and maybe Concepta Riley. Gemma, I was so pleased that Concepta Riley appeared you said, just for you. Guess who this is? Guess what this character is? I was like, I've got no idea. She came in episode 6 or something, didn't she?
She's only just appeared.
And I was like, Gemma, who's this? And then it's Concepta Riley, Gemma's most favouritely named Coronation Street character ever. And now you know what she's like. You can tell me what you think about her in a minute. And then like you said, it then scrolls past the Rovers, which is really the pub in Archie Street with the Rovers sign on it, to the Mission Hall, whereas obviously the Glad Tidings Mission Hall is not next to the Rovers. There's nothing there now because it's just Rosamond Street. And in the first episode, they mention the Glad Tidings Mission Hall being opposite the corner shop, so it's supposed to be where the cabin is now, and that's why whenever it was 10-15 years ago, they had that mini story where Norris thought the cabin was haunted by the ghost of Vera Lomax, who died in Glad Tidings Mission Hall. But I don't know whether anybody at the time noticed that or what.
I don't know, and also
or whether it just confused people.
The set of the outside of the Mission Hall is slightly different from the one in the credits.
Yes,
it's a real place, and then they rebuilt it. The other thing that's interesting, which I don't think I really appreciated until recently, is how the Rovers has changed so much. And I know you say like the snug and they always get the 3 women used to sit at the snug. I always misunderstood what you meant and thought you were talking about one of the booths that was called the snug.
Oh, really?
But actually, the whole bar of the Rovers is like just open to one room now. But in the old days, like there was like one like an L shape of it, and then there was an entire wall that was.
It's like a partition wall, wasn't it?
Right there,
in the middle of the bar.
So the snug, that's where the snug is. So the bar is open. It's still like a U shape, and they can look into one room and another room, which is how pubs are. Some pubs are like that still. Quite often, that's how a pub will work, is different rooms.
For our non-pub visiting listeners.
For people that aren't from England who don't go to pubs.
Also me.
Well, yeah. so the snug is an entirely separate room.
Yeah, but it's still just like for nowadays the snug was, you know, the bit of the bar with the fruit machine and the darts board.
That's where the snug is, and imagine there's a giant wall there. So you have to go through a set of doors to get to it, and it's literally just another room. It's nothing particularly different about it.
No, but what they didn't show in these initial episodes in 1960 at least was the select, and I don't know when the first time is that was shown, but that was the extra bit that doesn't exist anymore. A big hall with a stage on, where they had honestly, I don't know how much the select was used. I just remember that I think it was, did Stan and Hilda have a wedding anniversary once there? And I think I remember when Rita found out that Len Fairclough, or her husband, had been killed, she was on the stage or something, but something that would absolutely not fit in the Rovers. I mean, we kind of joke now about the fact that the Rovers back room doesn't fit in the Rovers, it's in the middle of Rosamond Street, but this would be kind of encroaching on the medical centre's territory, or whatever was there in those days. But
one of the things I really liked about it as well was it was like a window into how our parents would have lived when they were children.
That's what I thought, because 1960, my dad was born in 56 and my mum was born in 55. So yeah, the only child that was in this was Lucille Hewitt. So she was a bit older than our parents.
There were very irritating children that used to chant and run up and down.
And those annoying choir
But also
children.
Just the way that things are laid out, like houses are not like who am I thinking of? Which family am I thinking?
The Tanners, probably.
The Tanners' main area is the kitchen, and it's got like a big stove at one end, and they have to go out of the room to get tap water and stuff, and it's
I find it amazing how it was all in one room.
This is just how people lived, and it was only 60 years ago, and it's very, very
our parents
different.
Grew up like this, and I just can't imagine it.
No, I know.
And was it like this all over the country? I mean, this was a dodgy backstreet terrace in Manchester.
I was just about to point out that this was obviously a show about northern people and northern folk.
Honest northern folk.
But I'm also going to point out that it's also a show about working class people, and working class people have got more in common than, you know what I mean? Like, you can divide us up into northerners and southerners all you like, but Britain runs on class divides, and my family would have been under the Tanners. My family were poor as church mice, like super run away to convents to get blankets. Poor. So the Tanners would have been fancy pants, I imagine, to my grandma and stuff. But I just thought that was really interesting. And the other thing, the reason I thought of mentioning that was because there was a bit where Minnie, Ina and Martha were all trying to get a glimpse of the drama that was going on across the bar.
Oh, in the main bit of the pub. Yeah, that was at the end of episode 2.
Linda and her husband were having an argument, and Annie Walker comes up to them and says, there's a sign right there. It says, "Ladies cannot congregate at the bar. Please move away." It's like, it's so fun. And the other thing also, Lucille Hewitt's dad, is his name?
Harry Hewitt.
His wife died in a car crash before the show started. But as a single man, of course, he can't be expected to bring up a child. So he sent her to an orphanage.
That is hilarious.
And everyone's like, "So, how's your kid doing?" He's like, "Oh, she's fine. She's just at the orphanage."
Yeah, honestly, I can't look after her.
This child also at the orphanage, like at one point, she runs away from the orphanage to come for Christmas. But she said, I got really upset because everyone else went home for Christmas. And I'm thinking, I really did not understand what an orphanage was then. I thought it was for children that literally had no parents.
No.
But apparently it's just for children whose parents can't be bothered. And I really think we should bring those back, because there's a lot of kids now that do better off.
Yeah, I mean, what you were talking about, the sets, was spending a lot of the first and second episode just trying to get my head around the sets and thinking, so who lives in here now, and is there any trace of the old-fashioned layout in the modern houses, and like have they built a new wall in between?
Like, that door there is
yeah, like the Tanners. This is Eileen's house, but it looks like they're walking straight in from the street into this one massive lounge
kitchen.
Lounge/kitchen.
I think that's the kitchen, because they definitely mentioned another room, a front room, which I think is true. But this is exactly how my
kitchen
nan,
is just a little mini.
This is exactly how my nan used to basically live in the kitchen. And the front room was just where visitors would go, and she'd have her little seat and a radio and everything, and that would be where she sat.
Yeah, well, they had their fire in there as well,
didn't they? I think that's quite a common thing to
Eileen's kitchen now is just a tiny little, corridor sort of kitchen, isn't it? It's nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas this was a large area, and I was thinking, so that wall's down, would that all fit? I was trying to think, but it's all real, when in reality I think that the dimensions of some of these sets may well have changed over the years. Same with the Barlows.
I think that they were coming through the back door,
going
to the kitchen, and the front door was from a different bit.
I don't know. So the Barlows house, which is number 3 back then, was where the Baileys currently live, and there's no, you can't map 1-to-1. It really, really can't. And then some of the other houses, like number 1, Uncle Albert's house, only appeared in the first episode.
He had a very grand sideboard.
He did, didn't he?
I was saying, is he supposed to be rich?
No, he did have a coin collection. I don't know what that was worth.
I mean, only rich people collect money, Michael, as a hobby.
I had to look at the number of character appearances in 1960, and I saw that Uncle Albert was only in that first episode, and even Ken Barlow was only in 3 episodes. Yet people like Elsie and maybe Linda, I can't remember, Annie, made it in all of the episodes.
Oh, there was also a funny, you can tell it was a bit more experimental then, and it was also it felt a bit more like they weren't sure if they were a kind of a variety show or not, because around Christmas we had a choir.
We had choir in 2 episodes, didn't we?
Keep singing at us, like everyone stop what they're doing and let's listen to the choir. And then there was also a bit where Elsie Tanner was in hospital.
No, Ina Sharples was in hospital.
Ina Sharples was in hospital, and she it was a comedic scene where she was shouting at Minnie.
No, it was Martha. Martha came to visit her.
Okay,
Martha. Or might have been Vera Lomax, I can't remember.
No.
I think it was Martha, because Martha was taking over her job at the Glad Tidings.
And she was getting mad, and she was ranting, and then she started ranting and moving her head around, and then she fixated on the camera, and the camera sort of zoomed right in, and her face filled the screen, and she was just shouting.
She was shouting at us. I think it was weird, but I think it's quite effective, really. It's like, blimey, this is a woman you don't want to cross. But it was also a bit like,
okay, but don't do that again, though, because...
Yeah, they were trying to see what would work. And like you said about the choir, those 2 bits with the choir on, it was now let's listen to the choir for a bit. Yeah. And you could see some of the poor boys in there were like nervous as heck.
Oh my God.
I don't know whether they were the live episodes or not, but there's one particular boy that I focused in on. He was his eyes were like, oh, I'm singing on TV.
I think that's just what they look like when they sing, though, isn't it?
Maybe. They obviously tried, because this is something that hadn't been done before, they were just saying sort of, they're the trendsetters. They wanted to see what worked and what didn't work. There are a few other visual elements that they didn't do very much of, and they still don't nowadays, but the sort of thing we complain about when they try and, be fancy pants with the camera and blurring and all that kind of stuff, they did as well. For example, do you remember, I'm trying to, there was a bit in the first episode, and I don't think it came back again, and it might have been the first or the second scene in the shop where Florrie and is it Elsie Lappin? I can't remember. Were there 2 Elsies? That's really bad. Can you find out who it was? They were talking, and the scene ends with them still talking, and it fades out.
Elsie Lappin.
Yeah, Elsie Lappin. Why do they have 2 Elsies?
That's a bit odd, isn't it?
Come on, Tony. Get it together.
Too late now.
It's alright, she was only in 2 episodes. It was fading out. And you don't have fades out in scenes now in Corrie, do you? The scene ends, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It just felt weird. There's also, can I just say as well, that I was thinking that with May Hardman, there was a scene in her final episode, or maybe it was her penultimate episode, when she went to sleep in the chair, and then it kind of zoomed in her a bit. The camera went all blurry, and then it it got crisper again, and I say crisp, but I don't know what the resolution of this was. It was not too high, and it was like time has passed, and literally it was just the camera zoomed in and out again. And then when they had when she was having a I'm about to die moments, and she could see she was looking at the newspaper. What I was gonna say. Yeah, and it was fading in and out on the newspaper to show I can't read this very well.
Well, this is what I said to you before. I quite like that. I like the point of view shots, and you don't. I don't think you said before you don't like them as much as I do, but I like a bit of blurry camera. So it was really fun to see that was like a Coronation Street trope from the very, very beginning of the show. Yeah,
but it was more regular in those days, I suppose. Because it's funny thinking it was only 7 episodes. What we saw would have taken a week and a bit to play out in modern times, and it feels like a lot happened, more happened there than would have happened across 7 episodes these days. It didn't feel dragged out, but equally it didn't feel hurried.
Well, don't forget that there were much few less characters.
Oh yeah, far fewer characters. So
there's hardly anybody in the show now. And even then, there were still bits where we had Ken's got a girlfriend and she's a bit posh. Yeah. How is his family going to how is his family going to cope with this posh bird in their house? And then never mind about that. We're not going to talk about that again. So
would you say that could you still was anything there still relevant in 2020? Would you say that the kind of issues that certain families were facing, like that, I mean, class barrier for some people is still a thing these days?
What do you mean for some people?
Well, for lots of people then. But were there other things there that you think, that could be a story these days? Because I mean,
what do you think happened? I mean, you've still got, like, for example, Dennis Tanner having trouble finding work because he was in prison. That's exactly Michael Rodwell's story that he had. He had to become a ice cream man, which now I think about it, do you not need a CRB check to be an ice cream man? If you don't, I think we should look into that.
Yeah.
Urgently. The whole class thing, you
had Linda's pregnancy, and like, they didn't mention, do I want to keep the baby when she was pregnant?
Interesting that she was married to a Polish man, and they weren't as racist as they thought they were going to be about him.
No, but do you remember that thing that Ina Shuffle says in the hospital? She said something really racist.
She said there was a black doctor or something.
He was like as black as something or other. I can't remember.
Keeping an eye on him or something.
Yeah, it's like, ooh.
But they were just like, they just kind of, like, there was no hang-ups. Like, now you'd have to, be really careful about what you said about that. But Linda was just like, no, he took me to these Polish clubs and I didn't like it because I didn't understand what anyone was saying. And they referred to him as like, who's that dark fellow at the bar? It's like, and they kept saying like he was like making out that you could tell by looking at him that he was from a different country, which I don't. Okay, that was really, but just I'm only bringing it up because today in 2020, one of the most pressing political matters is immigration and Brexit, because people in this country do not like immigrants. And you've got this Polish man, and he was facing the same prejudice back then. It was a bit more overt back then because people felt freer to say, I don't like you because you're Polish.
Yeah.
Whereas, now they've got to use, slightly backhanded language, but they mean exactly the same thing. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting because I think we think of that as being a modern problem.
I thought that one of the things that seems more outdated to us now, but I mean it's still obviously very important for some people, was the religious aspect of it, because straight away Ina's scene in the shop was like, where's your place of worship? And then what is it, Elsie says, but this, and she's like, C of E, is it?
Yeah, that was funny.
And I was thinking, what is she then? I can't remember, but I was obviously not C of E. And I don't know what the Glad Tidings Mission Hall was supposed to be. But then the other story that I enjoyed with her, her main story was about Leonard Swindley trying to kick her out from or trying to get in trouble for drinking in the Rovers, wasn't it? Like he was saying, there's been word that you have been seen by some of the parishioners for partaking of alcoholic beverages in the Rovers Return.
No, he didn't say that. He said licensed premises.
Licensed premises. It's like that. Yeah, it's a different age, isn't it? Whereas nowadays you got the vicar shooting up heroin in the church.
I know. Yeah. The other funny thing was, who was it? Florrie in the shop just trying to learn the ropes, and then this posh couple come in, and the woman's like, "Excuse me, my good woman, please could you sell me some firelighters?" And so she like hands them over, and then they're like, "Ha! We got you. You're not allowed to
we're policemen. Do you know you're not allowed to sell these past 7 p.m."
I know, the policeman is like, were police officers really that posh back then?
Yeah, it should have been a big giveaway, shouldn't it? That was great. And then but by the end of the set of episodes, we find out that her name's in the papers and she's been charged £1.
I know. What shock.
Yeah, so it was...
It was really funny that like she just opened the shop and she had absolutely no idea what the laws were or anything. Yeah. And somebody came by right after that happened and said, "Oh, sell me this," and she says, "I can't. I'm not allowed." And like, no one cares about that anymore.
Yeah, that was Ina, wasn't it? I liked how she was stacking up the tins because, you know, like newfangled. She was an entrepreneurial genius. If I make a little triangle tin of these stack of tins, then maybe they will sell more.
Yeah, she said that, and the one who was selling it, she was like, "All right."
Yeah, people come in and know what they want, she said.
I want to know how long it was before people realised that Elsie Tanner was redhead.
I know, I thought that when I was watching as well.
Because that's like we even named all of our awards after, you know, redheaded because like redheaded folk on Coronation Award is really
the Elsie Tanner.
Yeah, it's the honorary Elsie Tanner Award.
Was the first Ember.
Yeah, but so but also the fashion, amazing. We've just come out of the 50s, so it's still quite inspired by 50s fashion. I think Elsie has like 2 dresses that she alternates between, and they're both with like a big lapel and like one of them's got a bow. Love it, and they're always fiddling with her hair. Linda Duvesky is my favourite character because she is hot.
That surprised me because I didn't really go much on Linda.
I think she's great.
I thought she sounded a bit cowish. I liked the developing relationship between her and Ivan, to be fair, but she didn't strike me as a.
She's just like, he's boring. I hate him. He doesn't do anything, and then he turns up to chase her down and. She says she's pregnant or she's smoking a fag and boozing, and he's like, "Oh, fantastic news!" And then
she still did it when she finds out that she's pregnant as well, doesn't she?
Of course, they didn't know.
Yeah. And
then she sort of like decides she likes him when he says he'll take her out places and buy her a house. She knows what she wants out of life.
Was there anything else kind of fashion-wise that took your fancy? Because like that went straight past me. I mean, the men just seem to be wearing shirts and the women were wearing kind of old-fashioned things. The men could be wearing
exactly what they're wearing now. Like I remember there was a bit where they were talking about Ken's jumper and his mum knit it for him, but it really just looked like he could have bought it from Marks and Spencer's to me. I don't think Ken's changed his fashion in 60 years, which is fine.
Quite a few of the characters had the classic like 60s housewife look of the, you know, the pinafores, like Ida Barlow, that very stereotypical 60s mum.
Lovely, gorgeous hair. Oh, who was it that made a jazz dress?
Oh, that was Christine Hardman, wasn't it?
Yeah, she made a really gorgeous dress.
Well, I assume it was from what we could tell from the black and white.
And I thought they were talking about a fur stole, but they know it's apparently just a throw thing to go around her shoulders.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was lovely.
Well, I was going to say something else about the fashion, I can't remember now.
I think that Linda was the most glamorous one because she was basically the only one under the age of like 40, wasn't she?
Yeah, almost.
Most of the rest of the cast were older women. I think it's weird that Elsie Tanner was sort of like, you know, the loose moralled, poverty-stricken woman of the street, but she was the sharpest dresser out of everybody.
I enjoyed the little revelation that we had while we were watching the first episode about just how old Elsie Tanner was during that first year of Coronation Street. Gemma?
Well, I was thinking, gosh, I wonder how old she is.
Because she seemed quite kind of stately and motherly.
She seemed mature.
Mature looking. And, it turns out she's 37, which is the same as Gemma is right now.
Well, I didn't think she could be because Linda was, you know...
Yeah, she was grown up, seemed grown up, didn't she?
Well, so she was married.
Yeah, Elsie had her children.
I think Elsie had a kid when she was 17 or something.
Yeah, I can't remember. It would have been in that book that I read, the Maggie Sullivan book, but she was a teen mum for sure. But I did think that was funny because we've seen the knacker yard scene so many times in clip shows. But I would have never said that she's the same age as we are.
No, I know.
You had to grow up fast in those days, and the war took it out of you, I think. It made you grow up fast.
I would love to read or even write a book, I wouldn't be able to write it, about the fashion of Coronation Street, because it's like a capsule of history of how
there isn't anything like that.
I don't think there is. And the hats
60th
were amazing.
anniversary.
And I say this quite often on the show about how costume tells you so much about a character before they even speak, and it's one of the unspoken heroes of Coronation Street. And it really started off like that too, because you just look at any of these characters and the way they're dressed tells you so much about who they are. Not so much the men. I mean, you can kind of tell that Dennis is a bit of a ne'er-do-well. By his, I think he a bit
more scruffy appearance.
But women's fashion particularly is very interesting. Annie with her like stately appearance behind the bar.
Yeah. So we haven't really kind of talked about. I mean, you said that your favourite character was Linda. Were there characters? Because we went into the show thinking there are some big names from the early years: Ken, Albert, Ina, Elsie, Annie. And then there were other characters whose names we've heard of, but didn't really know anything about. And I would have put Linda in that category, Linda Chevesky. We knew the name, but didn't really know anything about her. Really. So it was interesting that characters are the one that stood out to you the most.
I think I've been surprised in the past and keep forgetting that she was one of the original characters, because, like I said before, you don't really think of Polish immigrants as being anything but a new phenomena. The way people talk about it is like, oh, Polish people have never been here before. What are you talking about? So
I was quite taken initially by Ivan. I wouldn't say he was by no means my favourite character, but he was another one that I knew nothing about other than the name, and I knew that he was married to Linda. But he just seemed like a nice guy, wanting to do his best. I thought so. Yeah, I thought he was quite sympathetic.
Well, yeah, but don't forget that Linda says, oh, he was, he seems nice, but he's got a temper on him. And then
did we see much of that?
Yeah, what's her brother's name?
Dennis
sort of like says something that Ivan doesn't like, and then he threatens to beat him up. Then Linda is like, no, don't leave him alone, Ivan, get away, go, leave us.
He didn't strike me as being a wrong one at all.
I think he's definitely got a temper.
Yeah, a nice guy that has got a temper, and he's obviously got a lot of prejudice against him, and he's having to work through that. So I liked him.
It's a bit of a stereotypical kind of, hard-working, but he has a temper and he's rough with his woman kind of immigrant character. But it was, I don't know, is it progressive that he was in it? I'm thinking yes, but maybe I have maybe I need to reevaluate.
There were some other characters on the other hand that I didn't really know much about, and I can kind of see why they didn't go down as classics. I mean, I'm only judging it on the first 7 episodes, so who knows what the next few years were like for them. But people like Ida Barlow didn't make much of an impression on me. Not that she was Ken's mum,
isn't it? Yeah.
Not that she was in many episodes. She seemed nice but bland, I thought.
I like the bit. What's her dad's name?
Frank.
So I like the bit where they're all having dinner and Frank is like admonishing Ken for being having ideas above his station. Yeah. Then he like wordlessly hands Ida his cup, and she just takes it and toddles off to the side and like pours him a cup of tea from the teapot.
Frank was one of the characters that's like, I'd like to see a bit more of you, just because it was funny how much he looked down his nose at Ken.
And his brother David as well. There was a scene where they were both buggering around with a bike in the front room.
Yeah, fixing a puncture or something.
And Ida's like, I need to do my knitting.
It was interesting for me seeing David, because again, I knew of him, and there's footballing past, and we all know what happened to poor David over in Australia. But I think again he was only in small, 2 episodes maybe, so I didn't have much chance to get much of an opinion on him.
Yeah.
Esther Hayes.
I don't
boring.
Even know who she is.
Exactly. She's the woman who Lucille stays with for a bit, and was also hung around Christine Hardman.
Is she
for
the
a
one
bit.
with
She had a coat.
She's the one with the hat.
I think so.
And she's got kind of big eyes.
Maybe, but she didn't make any kind of impression
I knew
on me.
She kept sort of appearing, and I didn't really know what she was about.
She when she appeared, I was like, I don't really know much about her. Oh, that's Esther Hayes.
She kind of takes Christine under her wing, doesn't she?
Yeah, a little bit. And I think I wanted to like Christine more, but she did come across as being a bit of a cow, especially with her mum, who was clearly not right. And she was just like not really playing much, not believing her, like saying, "Oh, you're fine," because I didn't really know much.
We haven't explained.
I didn't know much about that story. So basically, at the beginning, Christine's talking about her mum's been away in hospital, but she doesn't want people to know it's
she had a breakdown. She said,
ward.
Yeah.
And then
the first time we see her is when she's having a go at Ina for spreading rumours about her mum being mad.
Yeah, but yeah, so May comes home. What, episode 3 maybe? So fairly frail looking old woman, but I mean,
she's not frail.
She
just kind of like very fragile.
Yeah, fragile. Maybe that's a better word, because she's worried about what people think, and the kids outside were shouting "Barmy" at her. And then over the course of the next 6 episodes or so, we see that she's not really getting better. She seemed quite nice, and then she dies.
There's
Corrie's first death.
A lot of unspoken drama in their past, because there was a picture of a house that they used to live in that Christine hid, because it's assumed that they had lost their house for somehow, and then this had led to May's mental decline, and then she got sectioned, or whatever the term was back then, and then she came back and she just never got better, and it was kind of like assumed that she was just mad, but actually I think she had a brain tumour that she died of. Yeah,
and I love that death. And when we did deaths as a feature discussion last year, the year before, whenever it was, and we looked back, who's the first person to die on Coronation Street? I mean, I watched the scene on YouTube, and it's like, I've never seen this.
It's very
This
dramatic.
is the first death on Coronation Street, and it is not a famous death at all. I kind of wish that I hadn't seen it before, because if I hadn't looked at it for that, I wouldn't have known that she was going to die, and it would have been a big shock. And I wonder how shocking it was for the people at the time.
I don't know.
Blimey, this character who I've just got to know, and she seems quite nice, really, just
Christine,
dies.
Is like, shut up, Mum, you've just been dramatic, and then walks off. And then the next thing you know, I think it's Ina. No, it's Florrie in the shop next door, and they hear pounding on the wall.
Yeah, she's there with Harry, maybe.
And she's like, goodness, what's that? I'll have to go investigate. Opens the door, finds her collapsed in the hallway dead.
Well, they did have the shot as well of May leaning up against the wall, like, at the end of number 13.
With her arms, like,
I thought that was,
and then like
it was a really good death,
sinking down to the floor with her arms like dragging down the walls.
Yeah, so it was really dramatic and tragic.
I bet you the actress who played this character was like, yeah, sure, I'll die in the first. I mean, it's only 13 episodes. I don't mind if I die in like.
Yeah, and I don't...
Not in the 7th episode, not to know that there were going to be another 10,000...
Yeah, she probably thought there'd only be a couple more episodes after, so why not? Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about what happened to Christine after this. I think she was in the show for another 3 or 4 or 5 years, maybe. We'll have to do character... I'm interested to do character profiles on some of these ones that I don't know much about, now that I can... I've got an anchor to base the discussion around.
Christine was also good because she sort of didn't... She went to the hospital and then she came back and she was sort of saying, I don't know, I haven't cried, I don't know, what do I do? I don't know what to do. But then she opened the envelope that the hospital gave her, and it had her wedding ring, her mother's wedding ring inside, and then she started crying.
Yeah.
And she had the woman that you mentioned, I said I can't remember what.
Esther Hayes.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Yeah, maybe she's had some big stories coming out later, so I don't know. We'll find out. Harry was another one, Harry Hewitt, that all I can think about of him is, he's the guy who sent his daughter off to the orphanage. I don't think we
I don't know what kind of he was. He always had
he didn't seem like
on.
Yeah, he was a bus conductor.
Oh, okay.
He didn't seem like
my mum was a bus conductor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like he was supposed to be. We're supposed to see him as a layabout deadbeat dad, like like Tim was when he first came into it. But
no, it seemed like
just
you were
didn't see
supposed to
much
think,
of him.
Yes, of course, you would send your child away. You're mad. You can't possibly raise her.
Yeah, but I did get a bit annoyed by Lucille. Part of it was because of the sound quality. Anything that was quite like high pitched, it came across as being very shrill and shrieky.
Yeah.
Even like when the theme tune kicks in, it's like a.
All right. People listening to this.
Apologies, listeners.
Yeah, the scenes with the children were weird as well. There were very few scenes, like communal scenes or outdoor scenes, and the only outdoor scenes really we had were when Christine was canoodling after she came back from the jazz club.
Yeah, that's when Ina discharges herself from the hospital, which is a very modern soap thing to do. Like 60 years ago, they're discharging themselves from the hospital, and now you got Jan doing it just last year.
The funny thing about Ina being in hospital was she went to hospital because Leonard Swindley confronted her about drinking in and then she got overexcited and fainted on the sofa, and then she was in hospital for a week or something. And they didn't even tell her what was wrong with her, because she asked her daughter what's wrong with me, and her daughter was like, oh, don't worry about it. And then so she discharged herself, went home, and then told whoever it was that
Martha,
was Martha, oh, I'm going to die.
Yeah, she's still got 20 years.
She was going to die. But nobody still knows what was wrong with her or why she went to hospital.
No, that's
it just seemed
a sign of the times.
I know it's supposed to be, it was very progressive for its time, and it was written about strong women characters, but it was very misogynistic. How women get upset and then they end up in hospital. Well, two of the characters in the show that happened to. We had May.
Yeah.
And then we have Ina, who's arguably one of the strongest female characters in the show, just having an hysterical fit.
Oh, I absolutely loved Ina Sharples. She was wonderful. Violet Carson, perfect casting for that. I couldn't imagine anyone else in it, but the way that she played it, she got that battle axe, that harridan, quick talking, quick witted, don't mess with me, sunshine, just right. She was brilliant. The quickness, the pace. It wasn't even just her. Lots of the conversations that went on, I felt, were very, very fast. But
it was very theatrical, I think.
Yeah, Ina was just amazing. The way that she ruled the roost in the snug, because it was her in the middle and then Martha on one side and Minnie on the other side. Minnie was she barely had any lines, did she? She was obviously
I don't know anything about her.
She was the third one. I was surprised how much Martha did speak, because she was another character, Martha Longhurst, that I didn't know a whole lot about, and I know we've done a character profile on her, but I haven't seen much with Martha in it, because she obviously doesn't last too long on the programme. But yeah, in the snug and the sharp, standing up to Leonard Swindley as well was great. It was funny seeing Leonard. He was only in a couple of episodes, wasn't it? That was who played him? Older, was that Arthur? Arthur Lowe. Yeah, that was quite funny seeing him. But yeah, Ina was wonderful, and she only had her hair net from episode 7 onwards, didn't she? In the early scenes, she just had her hair, out, and when she went into hospital, she had the hairnet in, and the rest is history. But she was great. Vera Lomax, who, or if you were to if you were to say Vera Lomax, what do you know about her? All I'd know is she's just the one that dies in the Glad Tidings Mission Hall later on. But I didn't realise at all that she was in the show early on, and I had no idea about her character. And it was funny seeing this quite kind of meek and pathetic woman who'd obviously been bossed around by her harridan of her mum all her life. I appreciated the fact that she was in it, because I had no
she was
clue
very
what
meek and
she was kind of Mavis, she really was, and it was a great contrast to Ina.
And it was funny because she's visiting her mum in hospital, and she gets bored and she wants to go away and have a cigarette, and then Ina says something like, oh, I always said if God wanted women to smoke, he'd make them chimneys.
Oh yeah, you see to put chimneys on their heads or something.
Yeah, it's like, what about men?
Yeah. I liked, Annie Walker was great. What more can be said about Annie Walker than hasn't been said already? The kind of clips that we'd seen beforehand, that was just, she was the same all the way through.
Main story was she found a book called London Lovelies, which her husband had hidden, and it turned out that he was given it by Harry Hewitt, and Harry Hewitt only gave it to him because he reckoned that somebody in it was someone's daughter that they knew.
That was funny. But I loved how Annie was looking down her nose at everyone, but also how Jack, her husband, wasn't scared of her at all. He almost kind of said, oh yeah, you have your thing, Annie. He tolerated her snobbishness, but yeah, as much as she thought that she was Queen Bee, I think that Jack really, he wasn't in her shadow, was he? It wasn't like the classic Corrie dynamic of say Hilda and Stan, and Hilda's got Stan under her thumb. I got the impression that he
He just kind of like...
He just let her get on with her own thing. That's just what she's like. And he was lovely.
I'm not really
and
that intimidated.
I'd heard people say that Jack was just, a nice, gentle old man. But I hadn't seen him before. And he was really kind of charming bloke, I thought.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see more of him over the next few discs that we watch.
Well, it was mostly about the Tanners.
It was. The Tanners were the main family, I would say. Dennis was brilliant, and it was... What did you think about seeing young Dennis? Because we've obviously seen funny. A few years of him.
He was a bit of a cool greaser kind of, you know, like a punk... Not really a punk, but, you could tell he was supposed to be cool, young...
Yeah, quite a few of the guys did have slicked back hair, didn't they? He was very camp, wasn't he, Dennis? Wow. But I thought it was fab. It's just lovely seeing this character that we know as an old man, seeing where he came from and where there was, I think, more of a difference between early Dennis and old Dennis as there was with Ken. Young Ken and old Ken seemed like, very...
Young Ken was like stuffy little...
Yeah, although he did seem to have a bit more of a northern accent, young Ken.
Yeah.
That's for some reason been driven out of him over the years. But yeah, Dennis was great. A bit of a ducker and a diver, but he didn't come across as being a wrong one. It's just he gets caught in the wrong place in the wrong time. Yeah. And they had that one cliffhanger at the end of the episode where he's got 25 quid or something, and Elsie's like, "Where'd you get that from?" Who else? I think we kind of covered most of the main characters. We saw Miss Nugent in one scene, didn't we? But it wasn't played by... oh my gosh, the actress's name has come out of my head. Who plays Emily? It wasn't Eileen Derbyshire. I think it's episode 15 that Eileen Derbyshire makes her... Eileen Derbyshire makes her debut as Miss Nugent. This was a no-name extra. It's a shame that we can't watch up to then, because I think on the box set, Emily's first episode isn't in it. So in a few episodes' time, I guess we'll get to see her.
I know, I don't know how it's going to work. I think I'm going to be confused by this. I really enjoy watching it sequentially, and it's such a shame that you just can't do that.
I know, I mean, I've said before, it'd be nice to be able to have just streaming of all 10,000 episodes, but it's not practical. And would anyone really watch it? Who cares? No,
it would be practical. I have to say, they could just put it on YouTube. Put adverts on it, stick it on YouTube. What good is it doing anyone now?
Yeah.
I guess I don't understand how it works for paying people.
No. That quantity
there might probably
of video.
Contracts and stuff that you'd have to pay people for their appearances, but it really would be...
I am a bit sad that we can't just keep on watching for a bit, because it was nice, it was easy to follow, and I do think if we watch the rest on the DVD box set, it's going to be a little bit harder.
A bit more concentration about what the context of what's happening.
Yeah, but I'm really glad that you liked it, because when I suggested let's get the box set, I thought that you'd be like, oh god, more Corrie to watch, but
well, I don't watch classic, do I, with you?
You don't watch classic, you don't, because we're in the 1990s now. So I have seen on and off Coronation Street from late 80s up to modern day now, basically. Not in the right order, obviously. So the 60s and 70s was a real, dark ages. So I thought we'd better get these to watch them. Fascinating. I think that any hardened Corrie fan really should watch the first 7-8 episodes. You should see what Corrie was like in 1960. Get hold of it somehow, because it's a piece of history. The characters are fascinating. You get to see Ken and Dennis as they started. You get to see how classic characters like Ina and Elsie started off, and it seems like they hit the ground running, because they were just as I expected them to be. Absolutely fantastic. I loved watching it, and like you said, as soon as one episode finished, rather than saying okay, let's leave it a few days, we were like, let's watch another one. What now? So no wonder that it caught on. If we thought that, and we kind of know what soaps are like, we know what modern day Coronation Street is like. I mean, there was none of the sensationalism, no issues stories, no loads of fake cliffhangers that they're having to put in now because of the quantity of episodes. No, but we were still gripped by it, so it's no wonder that it took off. Although it did get some bad reviews at the beginning.
Yeah, and don't forget, it was also a captive audience. It was this quite. Or 2 other channels.
two other channels of this, or one other channel, I think, wasn't it? It was just ITV and BBC. I don't know when BBC Two.
I don't know
when it started. That did help. It is brilliant. Find it, watch it, love it. And
it was fun that it was Christmassy as well.
Yeah, that was funny, wasn't it? Because it did span Christmas, and they had a few cards up, and it didn't look particularly Christmassy. And
because you can see the colours.
Quite, and they didn't have the classic Christmas Day morning montage or anything. Obviously, that they now do nowadays, just to show you Coronation. You can do a Corrie Christmas episode without it. Although there wasn't a December the 25th, there was the 23rd and the 28th, I think. So it was like, that was the other thing. These days in Coronation Street, they act as if there are only 3 days in a week. Every day is
annoying.
The next day is the next episode. And do you remember what happened yesterday, they say these days? So it's like weekends, Tuesdays and Thursdays don't exist. And it hasn't even always been like this. They used to refer to the other day to talk about...
Honestly, I think it's midway through Kate Oates'
era.
Yeah, that they decided to do
It wasn't the other day, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Whereas these episodes... It felt like time had passed because that episode that ended with a cliffhanger of there was one where the police came to knock on the door for Dennis, wasn't it? That was the cliffhanger. And then the following episode, which was shown 4 or 5 days later, Elsie and Linda are talking about the fact that Dennis has been in and out of that police station the last few days.
Yeah.
And that felt more natural. It felt more real to me.
Episode 3 did start directly after episode 2 ended.
You're right. That was the only one that I think went like that. Which and not only that, but they refilmed the end of episode 2 scene because there was even a little bit of extra dialogue that wasn't there before, and put it in the beginning of 3. But yeah, generally it felt like time had passed. It, but then for some stories you kind of need it to be straight after, don't you? Because if there's this massive cliffhanger and then it's a few days later, well, obviously it would have blown over by then. It must be really difficult to juggle that, which I don't know how it works, how well it fits with Emmerdale, because Emmerdale is on 5 days a week. Does it feel more natural, like it ties into real time? Don't know. Tell us, Emmerdale viewers. Any final words, Gemma?
They kept calling it the Rover.
Oh yeah, we were going to mention that, didn't they? They called the Rovers the Rover, and I wonder when.
Some people did, and some people didn't.
I wonder when they stopped calling it the Rover.
Yeah, that was very odd.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, I've got nothing else to add. You should get the DVDs. How much was it?
Of £30. It probably is available on YouTube, some of them, I don't know.
We won't tell anybody about that.
Shh. And honestly, I like I was saying about the streaming platform, I'm thinking if Coronation Street did introduce, £1 a month to get all the episodes of Coronation Street, I think I'd play it. I'd pay it now.
£1 is not very much. They'd have to charge more than that.
Well, if it was just for Coronation Street, what's Netflix now? £6-7 a month, is it? And you get an awful lot for that.
The reason I said YouTube was because I don't suppose they've got the facility. You'd have to create an entire back end and host it and everything. Like, YouTube already exists.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they did go down the pay for it view, the subscription view, I absolutely would now without hesitation. Whereas before I was like, no, I probably wouldn't watch it. But,
I know, but Michael, the fact that you weren't convinced before you watched it to pay for it, and you are like one of the biggest Coronation Street fans in the country.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I just feel the sucker that does the podcast.
Your wife do a podcast about it. For
you love it, really.
How many years? So I think there's an argument to be made that you're slightly more into it than a lot of people are. Maybe I'm wrong there, but the fact that you wouldn't pay for it means that they would have a very uphill struggle getting anyone else to even consider paying for it.
That's absolutely true. Actually, I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think it would be financially viable. Well, yeah, just I mean, where is it stored on Coronation Street? Do they have it all? Do they have it uploaded just in case, or is it just on big? Is it just on big VHS tapes or on film reel or whatever?
All right? Are you making sure it's okay? Have you checked it?
I wonder. I do wonder, is it all digitised? I probably should know this. Corriepedia would know. Or are there still bits that are just film? Because they put clips from the olden days on social media, don't they? But
Yeah.
do they only have a certain pool?
You can tell that there's a certain pool that they use more often.
That they pull from. Yeah. So
whether that's
that should
because
be a project.
they're clearly the best clips, or just because those are the ones that are the easiest to find. I'll let you decide.
I do wonder. And also wasn't it just last year or the year before that Corriepedia discovered that there was half an episode that's missing out of the whole, because it always used to be every single episode of Coronation Street is available, but
they found out
that
they did that.
One from the 70s. It's because they go to the archive, the British wherever, where you can.
What, not the British Museum?
No, I don't remember where it is now. You
BFI?
can, maybe, and you can ask to see it, and they got to a point, and it's like
we should do that then.
Yeah, I think we should.
To London.
Maybe we should have a little trip. It's a real shame that they don't have it all, but maybe it'd be funny if they did have everything on streaming platform, and then they had to kind of admit, I suppose, sorry, can't watch that.
You just like have the script on
maybe
the
they do like what they do with Doctor Who, and like make animated ones or refilm them or something. It's a weird, but anyway, I think we're done. We've been talking for nearly an hour now about 1 year, 7 episodes of Coronation Street.
That's about the right rate of chatting about things.
I reckon so. Well, we'll end it there then, and as the year goes on, somehow we'll talk about other bits from the 60s. I don't even know whether they're going to watch all the episodes on the DVD or whether we'll
how
just
many hours did we say it was the other day?
40 hours. So.
Yeah, 40 hours.
We'll get it there. And then we've got to get the 70s as well. But if you're not going to do it on the Diamond Anniversary year, then when are you? So I hope you enjoy all the old stuff, because there's a lot more where this came from.
Yeah, God.
And that's a threat.
Yeah.
Right, well, with that all said and done, let's move on to the next section.